We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Nick Barris here, joined by political science professor John Weil, taking your phone calls and comments this morning as we take a look at what's happening politically both in Georgia and, of course, what's happening later today at 1 o'clock in Washington, D.C. with the certification of the Electoral College votes. And Professor Weil, we've got some callers, so I'm going to kind of zap through them and let them say their piece, and then we can comment on that as well. And we'll go next to Beverly. Good morning, Beverly. Hi, Beverly.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
Well, one thing he was talking about Gore, and I am very proud of Gore because he said that he would not go farther with it because it would hurt the country. That's why I've always been proud of him. He was a gentleman. But the main thing I think is one of our biggest problems is the Congress. Senate and House both needs. They don't need to be up there for a lifetime. Then they get too much authority, and they think they're as much as the president or bigger than the president, like when they said that nothing would come out up for vote unless he approved it. I don't know how you would do it. I'm 74, but if I'm alive, I sure would vote for it. But to make things where they would serve 2 terms, and that's it, just like a president.
Okay.
And that's my comment.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Well, what do you think? It's been talked about before. It's been, with regard to term limits, and ultimately you can limit their terms by voting away, but we all know there is a huge power and advantage of being an incumbent. It's just a fact of life.
Or it doesn't appear to have worked for the 2 incumbents in Georgia, so there is, I guess that proves that the voters can make their choice. One of the things that has really disturbed me about Congress is Congress right now seems to be broken. Congress has become, under Trump, has become more of a lapdog than it has been a coordinate branch of government. The American founders anticipated that the legislative branch would be the most powerful branch. If you read the Constitution, it's Article 1 is the legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch. The one that was supposed to be the most powerful has frankly caved. And, I'm hoping that even though it looks like there will be at least a bare majority in both houses of Congress under Biden, that just because Biden says something, that Congress will not necessarily always jump.
I wanted to ask you, too, about that, and that's a good point. Is there, some people would make the argument that there's advantages to having, both parties involved in government and splitting House here. When one party has everything, whether it's the Republicans having everything or as it looks like the Democrats might in this case, you could say, wow, what a big advantage. But you know what? You've seen even here in the state of Tennessee, where you've got Republican governors, Republican Senate, and Republican House. Sometimes that creates more of a problem just from the sense if they don't get along, when things don't work out, there's no one to blame but yourself, clearly. I mean, it is all on you.
And of course, that's the way parliamentary systems work, is your president and, your prime minister typically and your parliament, they're from the same party or the same party coalition. Whereas in the United States, we have divided government. I think the one sort of moderating factor right now is, okay, even if the Democrats pick up both these seats, so they have a 50-50 with Kamala Harris being able to make the tiebreaker. That's not so substantial that I think the party is liable to just sort of run roughshod over things. Hopefully, it will ease the confirmation process for members of the president's cabinet. But ruling parties almost always lose in the off-year elections. So 2 years from now, we can almost surely predict that the House of Representatives probably will switch hands, and if it doesn't, at the very least, Democrats are likely to lose seats there. So I don't think there's enough of a majority here. It's not an overwhelming referendum. People obviously want someone other than Donald Trump in the presidency, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want all of Biden's policies.
Gotcha. All right, let's go next to Jason. Hi, Jason. Good morning.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good.
Well, let me first start by saying I am an independent voter. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. As a matter of fact, we're up here in Kentucky, and we voted for the Democratic candidate for Senate. We didn't vote for Mitch McConnell at all. But I became a Trump supporter after watching the Senate hearings on the Russian collusion. There was no evidence of Russian collusion. And if you go back to the hearings and you look at it, I mean, their star witness was a guy in the bathroom drunk at a bar. I mean, it made no sense at all. And then they found out the only collusion there ever was Hillary Clinton colluding with Russia. The CIA informed the FBI of that, and the FBI hid the information and threw it away. And so that's a fact. That's all a known fact. You can watch any of the Senate hearings, and it's right there. And James Comey admits to it. But how could you say that there was Russian collusion when there wasn't?
Well, okay,
I would like to know that. That would be my first question.
That's good. Let me ask a question back, and I hear you on that. I'll let Professor Weil try to answer that for you. Just with regard to that, though, I'm just curious, how do you feel about the president's claim of voter fraud in this instance?
I absolutely believe there is voter fraud. I absolutely do.
Well, see, that's the problem then. I'm sorry, man. There's absolutely zero. If you don't believe there was any Russian collusion and you believe there's voter fraud this time, then you're looking through rose-colored glasses. I don't think you can have it both ways. But go ahead, Professor.
Well, one of the interesting things is, when it came to impeachment, I think it was not so much the question as to whether there was Russian collusion. Impeachment basically centered on whether the president tried to pressure a Ukrainian leader to launch an investigation against Joe Biden's son. And it would make for an interesting parallel to take the record of the conversation that he had with him and the record that he recently had with the Secretary of State in Georgia. The modus operandi seems very similar. Threats, promises, I really need you to deliver votes for me. Votes are not something that individuals other than your own can deliver to other people. That's just not how our system works.
And this caller, again, claimed to be independent, but felt otherwise, and he's entitled to his opinion with regard to that. But then He goes about and says he definitely believes there was voter fraud. And I just want to revisit this. Look, I'd be open to it if there was evidence, but can you recap again for us how this has gone before dozens of courts, which is the way it's supposed to play out, many of them with Republican-appointed judges, and it's all been thrown out. There is no zero. And yet this guy believes it, and a bunch of them do. Because, I don't know, they just hear it and they say, well, we'll take it at face value. Bring me the evidence. And they're going to say, well, the evidence is being covered up. Well, then you know what? We're never going to get anywhere. But if you can't trust Republican-appointed judges who are throwing this out, then I guess we're done talking.
Well, part of the problem comes in that your president's attorneys, and particularly Giuliani, they have made some outrageous statements of fraud in public. But when they get to the court, they can't make those statements without the danger of perjuring themselves. And as you say, if there's any neutral observer left in the United States, it has to be the courts. And when you lose, 59 to 1 or 60 to 1 or whatever the current count is, I don't know where else you would turn. Obviously, every election, there's probably somebody who, I don't know, voted and then died or maybe got in under the wire before they were 18 or something like that. But the fact that Republicans actually picked up seats in the House of Representatives and continued to win state houses, these are the same elections. So how would you commit fraud against Donald Trump and for your senator or for your representative? People just got tired of Trump. They don't want him anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want Blackburn or somebody else, but they've indicated that they're tired of him. It's time for him to move on.
We'll take a break on that note when we come back. Jack and Ann and others will get to your calls right after this.